Okay, anybody want to start off and share with us about the origins of maybe the ministry or involved? And he's going to bring to you because we are recording this. And then stop the recording during the prayer time around the tables. Actually, I'm going to start off with Ed.
Thank you. Debbie and my start time was fairly simple. We started an early morning prayer group at our church. And in a little prayer circle, when they broke us up into circles, David Funke was in our prayer circle. And my wife, there's a Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn in our relationship. She's Tom Sawyer, and I'm the one painting the fence. So she asked David, what could we do for you? He says, well, we don't have desserts or fruit for the children in our Monday night children's church. And so I started taking fruit and cookies on Monday night. She did the first time. From there, for the next 14 years, I did it. But from there, we evolved in remodeling the facility over there, working with Dave. Debbie started a girls program on Tuesday nights. So it evolved to writing a book that you've seen copies on the table and becoming a 501c3. Actually, it was 15 years ago we started doing the prayer service. It was in July we started working with David. In 2015, we did a 501c3. Then we decided we needed to work with more small missions in the Metroplex. Pastor Tim was one of the reasons we do this. He and Eldred Sawyer did a residential monthly meeting or quarterly meeting when Tim was over Reconciliation Ministries. So I went to him and said, God told me to do something like this monthly. Tell me, how did you do that? So we took that idea and it evolved into our monthly luncheon. So the what and how to starting missions, it needs to be movable. You need to go up and then you need to go down again and come back up when things work and don't work. So
Ed, you also want to mention a couple things on the table?
I do. The Truth Academy brochure on the table. If you have any families you work with in South Pleasant Grove, we're starting enrollment for K3, which is 3-year-olds, to second grade. And his plan will provide a free tuition for those children for next year. So enrollment is open now. It's in the brochure there. So it's been a great program our first year. It's a great Christian education in an area where there is no. So you may be working with families in that area. So please contact the school, and I'll make sure our principal gets onto it. I work on the board level, and we'll get them enrolled. Then, of course, as a gift, I fell in love with these little crosses that were done in Bethlehem from an olive tree. So that's yours to take with you, and hope you enjoy it.
Thank you, Ed. We love Ed and Debbie. We thank you guys so much for being a part of our lives, but we're glad to be here. We're glad you put this on. Joe and I were married in '87 in the Philippines, and we hadn't been back to the Philippines in 20 years. In 2007, her father was ill, lung emphysema, and we decided to go to the Philippines because he was very sick, very ill. So in 2007, we went to the Philippines, and I was pastoring a church at that time, and there was our best friends happened to be a co-op, a president of a Baptist co-op in the Philippines with about 265 churches. And so we didn't know the Lord was going to call us to help feed the hungry there. But while we were there and in the hospital, we noticed that there was a burden for the children and families who were living in extreme poverty, extreme malnutrition. And we got to firsthand see it. I preached at a leper colony in the Philippines for the first time. I'd never, seen leprosy, and it was amazing. We prayed on the way there. We prayed on the way back from the Philippines, which the Lord healed our father, let him live 4 more years. It was wonderful. But we saw that need. We prayed to God about it, and we started sending boxes to the Philippines, just boxes of supplies and food and necessities. And we had a heart and hunger for them, for the children, and for the families. And the Lord kept providing. We didn't know how we were going to put the next box together, but the Lord provided. And then every year since then, we would go back to the Philippines, and it just built and built over the years. But Joe picked it up a few years ago, made it a nonprofit. We were doing it all by ourselves for so many years. And a couple of years ago, she decided to incorporate it, make it a nonprofit, and she's been leading it ever since and doing a great job. And so without God's will, you can't overcome struggles. The struggles will always be there. And Ed and I talk about this. There's never enough. There's never enough. There's never too much. And there's always a need. No matter how much somebody supplies one week, the next week it's gone because you put it right back into the lives of people. And so we know what it means to struggle and to go through ups and downs. And without those, we would rely on ourselves and not on God.
That's good. Thanks, Stephen. Yeah.
Well, I did not start One by One Ministries, but I taught for 27 years. I was a special education teacher, and I didn't always know Christ, and so you have that void in your heart that you maybe seek filling it in ways that are not appropriate. And so I was in a domestic abuse relationship, ended up in a 5-year divorce, and during that time, I had an unplanned pregnancy. So even though I had a family that loved me, I was so alone. I was so, I felt ashamed. I didn't have a family there for me. And so when I heard about One by One, was like, I needed that. I needed someone not in my family, someone who I could truly talk to, someone could share Christ with me, because through One by One, we educate and be parents, but our hope is that they come to Christ. And so that's what changed me, was Christ fulfilled that void that I was seeking in so many ways. And so I had a heart for it. I just couldn't help but want to support moms that maybe, felt isolated. They didn't know if they could be a parent, and tell them you're going to make it. You can do this. There's so much more out there for you, and God has a plan. So it just spoke to my heart.
Thank you. Somebody else?
For me, I heard about human trafficking and realized that the biggest thing to me was this was a population that was completely voiceless. And so that was something that spoke to my heart, was these were children, men, women that had no voice to speak up for themselves, and these tragic, horrible things were happening to them. And I had some of that experience in my childhood, and so that kind of sparked that in my passion, but not nearly to the magnitude that they experienced. My passion for human trafficking, really wanting to go into this field, was nailed down when one of my best childhood friends was actually trafficked by her boyfriend. And so that's when I was like, this is what the Lord is calling me into. I want to work in this field. And so prior to coming on with Poema, I worked directly with minors that were sex trafficked in North Texas. And so now I work in the education portion of it, telling people like, hey, this is real, this is happening right in our backyards, to people that you're friends with, people that your family, you go to school with, church with, all those types of stuff. So very passionate about especially children that this is happening to, and educating everybody I can about the issue.
So if you're summarizing so far the input, does it sound like you saw a need, specific need, and went and met it, but also you had a need, and there was not a place that you felt, so you started something, or you got to be a part of something? That's just pretty interesting. Somebody else? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I work at Rainbow Days Incorporated, which is we help homeless families. We help they're experiencing homelessness. Some of them are it's just the mom or the dad and the child, and they're in a homeless situation, and sometimes it's full families. But these kids are expected to go to school every day and function just like all the other kids do. And so their circumstances at home a lot of times are so much different than all the other kids. But, society is as it is. They have to be there, and they supposed to get good grades and supposed to do all the things. And so what we do at Rainbow Days is to go into those shelters and into those situations. Some of the shelters that we go into are homeless families, but some of them are families that are have experienced domestic violence, and the mom or the dad has escaped that situation and is now in like a protective custody type thing, and some of the families are trafficking victims, and they're also in like a protective. So there's a lot of different dynamics in what we deal with these kids. So our population of kids is from 4 to 12, and we just try to uplift them, encourage them. Rainbow Days always says that we are helping kids rise above. So we want them to rise above their circumstances and not let that define their future. So I got involved in it because in a moment of transparency, as a child and a young adult, I was homeless. So I know what that's like. And so any way that I can give back to, sorry about that, my throat's, these kids to, help them to understand that that doesn't define who they are and that they can rise above that and be anything they want to be. And so we really encourage that with 5 major messages of I am, I can, I have, I will, and I believe. And we just go through that curriculum continuously with these kids, and it's such a big, has such a big impact, and I'm so glad to be a part of it.
Thank you. In the ministry that I lead, cross-generational ministries, it's all about discipleship and discipling those who God assigns to us. And most of the conversation when you're walking with people and they start to be vulnerable and really get down to issues of their brokenness, guess when it happens? Ages 4 to 12, typically, right? I mean, most of you say that there's some sort of trauma, something neglect, shame comes in. And thank you guys, because you're in that demographic when a lot of that is happening that causes life choices for the rest of our life to go different ways. So grace of God on you guys. All right, anybody else?
I'll share. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Latavia. I go by Tay. I have an organization. It is currently called Rise Up. We're seeking to make everything official. We may change that name. We support teenage moms and teenage fathers, specifically in Irving ISD for now, because that's where I teach and that's where I was a teen mom. Irving does have a program, Irving ISD does have a program that supports teen moms, but where they are not providing, my organization supplements. That's financial, that's tutoring, that's scholarships once the mom graduates or the father graduates high school if they commit to college. I found the need because I have a best friend. She and I both became teen moms 11th grade year, and my family supported me, and they still support me. And her family did not support her, and our paths are completely different. And so what I'm seeing, what I witnessed her go through, I'm seeing my middle schoolers go through when they're pregnant, and I'm seeing high schoolers go through it when they're pregnant, and I just want to be that example for them, that encouragement for them, that there is life afterwards, and there can be abundant life afterwards. And so that's our mission. Bless God.
Thank you. Glad you're here. Yeah. Okay, let's take a few minutes just around your table and do a little pausing and reflecting in prayer. Here's what I'd like you to start at least, is just to ask the Lord to continue to remind you of the origins of what he called you to. Because when we're in the ditches and when life gets long and we have a bad week or something, it's like, oh, you're not doing this for, I don't think most of you are doing this for financial prosperity of your own pocketbook. You're serving. I think that I heard yesterday, maybe or whatever, Dallas is now among the fastest growing cities for millionaires. More millionaires are becoming millionaires in Dallas than any other city. I heard that, hadn't verified that. I don't think you're there necessarily. God bless you if you've got $1 million or more, but that's not why you're doing what you're doing. In other words, something has to keep us anchored. And obviously that's Christ and what his call in our life. But just spend a few minutes praying around the table, maybe pray for each other, or somebody just didn't get to share and wants to share. But please pray towards that end of God, just continuing to keep us anchored in that call that was in our heart when you're dealing with all the midst of maybe admin stuff and financial stuff and that kind of thing, okay? So take a few minutes to pray. Y'all ready to move forward? Y'all good? Okay. Thank you. And so another question, so we'll do this in as much as we have time for, but probably another question and prayer time will get us there. I think it's critical to reflect on golden memories. When Joshua, they were led across the Jordan River, remember the stones they put in place? And why are we doing this? Well, one day your kids will be here. They'll see these stones and you'll be able to say, look what God did. I think often that's what sustains us. I know for me, if I'm feeling the weight of, man, I need to do this, I've got all this stuff going on, or I've got stuff starting in my own life, it's good for me to take some deep breaths and back up and let God just remind me. I've written those down in my journal, some golden memories. What I mean by that is sometimes when you know God, I mean, he just revealed to you, maybe tangibly, maybe through a vision, a dream, prayer, some way, somebody else may be saying something that it's like, wow, I know that I'm supposed to be right where I'm supposed to be no matter what is going on. So I'd like us to share some of those golden memories. They could be like a story of something that's happened in your life or in your ministry that you look back as a foundational thing or as it's like a stake in the ground. So I'm going to share one quick, maybe just to give an example. I'm not asking it to be like my story, but just to give you examples. So when I was at Reconciliation Outreach, down here in downtown Dallas, we had a men's and women's home and after-school program and homes for people that were financially challenged, apartment complex. One of the things that I enjoyed about that is, as a father, being able to speak into the lives of the women's home, of course, and the men's. I've seen a lot of women's homes over the years that they should be led by a female, by a woman, but also don't have the voice of a father in that. And when I talk to some of them, the things that they're wounded from, obviously, and the trauma sometimes comes from a father figure. So I've had this dream to have a woman's home where obviously someone that I was in a relationship would be leading that and staff of women, but there was this fatherly figure or fathers in that, in and out of that were healthy and could minister to the ladies. And so just turned 64, that hadn't happened. I'm not sure it's going to happen, but you know how sometimes God will fulfill something in a way you never even thought. So recently there was a young lady at RO, I'll make this quick, that methamphetamine addict, went to prison, came out of prison to our ministry, and she and I just connected heart to heart. And she ultimately went through our leadership track and was sober for a long time and became my assistant. And so when I left that ministry, obviously we got disconnected a little bit, but I tried to stay in contact with her. And she ended up, she never went back to methamphetamine. She ended up drinking, became an alcoholic, and it was her path in and out of recovery type centers and so forth. Try to stay connected. She would ghost me a lot of times. I mean, this is over like a 10-year period. But then we'd connect, it'd be great. And recently, over the last year, she's been in the ministry called Strong Tower, which is down south. And it's a great ministry, men's and women's home. And so we've been connecting. And along that path, I said, Holly, it'd be great if we actually, let's talk weekly. Can we set something up? So she said yes. And so when I'm thinking about what I want to disciple and how I want to disciple people, I'm circling around the three great mysteries. Who is God? Who am I in Christ? And who are we as the people of God? And so I've used different books, different tools to share those. One of those was Gentle and Lowly, the book Gentle and Lowly. I don't know if you've seen it. Yeah, read it. Yeah, great book. If you should get it if you know. But it's talking about the heart of Jesus and then the heart of God in the Old Testament. Written by a Presbyterian pastor. It's one of the richest books. Now it's focused on the love of God. Obviously, the only passage in the Scripture we have that says Jesus' heart is I'm gentle and lowly at heart. He shares his own heart. But anyway, we started going through that book, and then she had a friend at the ministry that she's at still. Now she's a leader. She's staff at that ministry, been sober a couple of years. And she wants to get on the call. Can she get on the call? So we're doing a weekly call on Monday. And then 2 weeks ago, she said, Mr. Chapman, there's like 3 or 4 ladies that want to get on the call and be a part of this. And I just felt like the Lord spoke to me. He said, you know, I put in your heart to lead help lead a women's home. That's not going to happen. But here's how it's happening. Holly is leading the women's home that she's in, and the influence that I'm giving you is happening that way. So that's a golden memory for me, right? It's like, okay, I can take this weight of me trying to make this happen my way and let God do it. And it was just like, man, the Lord showed me that I would just smile and just like, wow, thank you, Lord. So what are some golden memories that you have? Is that clear enough explanation? We all on the same page? Okay, if you spoke first time, doesn't mean you can't speak, but some of you that didn't, stand up and share a golden memory.
I'm going to, I don't need it, do I?
Yeah, because we're recording it.
Oh, okay, I'm re-recording. I'm going to combine the last topic with this one to a point. I'm the director and founder of Journey Soccer Ministries. But as far as this last question was concerned, as far as golden memories, I didn't come out of a lot of situations that I've heard at these other tables and where you know, your family and you in particular came out of. I grew up in a very strong Christian home. My father was a president of a Bible college and spoke across the Southeast United States for years at Bible conferences and on radio, all that kind of stuff. So I didn't get to go through and live with some of the kids that we serve. Journey Soccer Ministries actually started in 2004 under a different name and a different purpose as far as soccer clubs, and we, you know, throw me underneath that bus, and I understand. But after I started coaching, finishing up my coaching career, teaching career, I ended up right down the street at North Dallas High School, where I ran into some of the most neediest kids I've ever met, especially on the east side of 75, over here off of Maple Line, and all the way up through Rucks Middle School. And my heart just grew for those kids to where each day was a memory of what God wanted me to do and why I needed to turn other jobs down that were offered and stuff, because this was, for some reason, where I needed to be. I know a lot of us over the years go through things we have no idea why God shut that door. Good opportunity. It might be for me. It might be a great coaching job somewhere else in a nice school district, and okay, I'll go interview. And I'll be driving back and I hear, that's not for you. You know, that's not for you. And you hear that enough, you technically quit looking. But eventually you calm down and you went, you know, God, this is a great ministry right here in this area. That needing to be said, there are, in our ministry, up until last year, we've done mainly soccer camps and stuff. Half of my volunteer staff is from this high school right here. I've got 4 or 5 girls. I've got 2 young men out of David's ministry at YWAM, and right now we are focused on after-school programs. And we are beginning to grow in that area, partnering with people in East Dallas. Garland and even in West Dallas is on hold until, for those of you who deal with volunteers, you know the problem I'm having in that area and getting people out and stuff. We have actually, and I'm going to run an advertisement for Truth Academy. We are actually running the after-school program 2 days a week for Care Center Ministry, CCM, over there at Truth Academy. Those kids are wonderful kids. They do need any kind of financial help you can give. I need volunteers, by the way, to go over there in the afternoons and stuff. What can I say, David? But I figured I'd give you a nice little advertisement here. They're some great kids. My staff, I've got an academic course. She's the only one who gets paid about 8 hours a week. And so she takes care of running around, so I don't have to. And they just love those kids. We've got a camp coming up in Samuel Grant Park that David and I have put on for the last about 4 years and stuff. We're going to bring them all in. We're expecting over 50, 60 kids this summer at that park. We also do an after-school program at The Rock Recreation Outreach Center at South Garland, which is a very tough area, as much as it is in Pleasant Grove. So that was never a dream of mine. It's like a second career. And it's where I didn't have this dream like a lot of y'all have had this dream, this is what I want to do. I didn't have that. When I retired, I wanted to kind of like volunteer at the hospital that I do, play golf, and, you know, and see my grandkids that I don't, you know, they live in some other town. So but this has become something that is just second job, second career, you know, and it's just outstanding. So God leads, you know, God's voice is there, whether or not it's a dream, just hang on, because he's going to open doors and shut doors.
Thanks, Andy. Thank you. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Kimmy. I work with college athletes just up the street here at SMU. And my first semester on campus, I did not have a lot of training, which was okay because I had gone to Bible college and I had my degree in biblical studies, so I felt at least mildly equipped. But I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing on campus. And I took over a team study with the soccer team that had already had some roots. And my first week, I showed up. I had a lesson prepared. I was all ready to go. I was like, okay, this is my first week. I'm going to crush it. And I get there. I don't know any of these girls. And I was like 2 minutes late, And in those 2 minutes, they had decided that they wanted to randomly pick a lesson out of the curriculum to do that night. And so they had gone to the front of the index and just said, somebody pick a number. And they, chose number 7. And I show up as this has happened, and we flip to number 7 in our curriculum, and it was on homosexuality, same-sex relationships, sleeping around, and just sexual sin. And I was like, Lord, what? Like, I don't know any of these girls. This is my first week on campus. Like, what are you doing? And so we just did it. And it was like, I wasn't going to back down on my biblical perspective and biblical ethics of sexuality, but also trying to approach it with grace to these students I don't know, who don't know me. And at the end of the lesson, I had this one girl who was really aggressive, pushing back, and just did not agree. And I walked out of there and I was like, oh my word, I'm never gonna see any of those students again. There goes the soccer team study. It is totally over. What just happened? And so I had maybe 1 week in between, go to team study, a few of them were there, and then we had a rally on campus where we invite all of the athletes to come. And at the rally, one of the girls walked in, the one who was really aggressive against me, pushing back on this conversation of sexuality. And we're sitting there, and I just felt the Lord's voice so clearly saying, I want you to disciple her. And I'm sitting in the back of the room, and I was like, no. You got it wrong. Somebody else, please, Lord. And it was an hour. I'm sitting there. I just hear him, I want you to disciple her. I want you to disciple her. And I just kept saying, no, Lord, you're wrong. It's not me. It has to be someone else. And I still, at the end of the lesson, was undecided on what to do, and we're getting up, and I just said, okay, I will do it. And before I had a chance to approach her coffee, she came and found me, and the first words out of her mouth were, I need help.
Wow.
And so for me, as you're sharing, I was like, that is a golden moment, because
absolutely.
I had no idea what I was doing on campus. I've been there 3 years now. I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing on campus. But to just see that the Lord was working in the same way that he was working in me, he was working in her to put this together. I had 3 years with her. She just graduated. She's going on to play professional soccer. We still talk pretty much every week. And that's not to say that I fixed all of the issues and that there's no problems anymore. But the Lord has done a lot in her life and healed a lot and redeemed a lot of broken areas. So I'm grateful He let me be a part.
Yeah, that's so good, isn't it? Anybody else? Okay, you have golden memories, right? You just don't want to share them out loud.
I'm still trying to figure out what a golden moment is. But when we started, like Stephen said, putting together a box, well, we support a lot of churches, small churches. So we're friends with a lot of pastors and pastors' wives. And one conference that Stephen and I went, it's of pastors' wives. I brought a little bit of lotions to give away for the volunteers, and when I gave it away, of course, there's like 250 pastors' wives there, and I had like 11 back then. I gave it away, and then this one lady, she said, "Ma'am, do you have any more?" I said, "I'm so sorry, it's all gone. It's gone." So she lifted her skirt, and it's ashy, really ashy. So I feel bad. I gave her mine. The following year, I told my friends and our church that I'm going to collect 250 lotions, because lotions are very big in the country. In my country, it's not that it's not available. It's just very, very expensive. And most women there, they'd rather put food on their table than put lotion on their skin. So I said, okay, we're going to collect 250 lotions. And Spam is very, very popular as well, and it's also very, very expensive. So I said, 250 lotions for the women, because they're coming up with another conference, and 500, we're gonna do 500 Spams with it. And here I am, start telling people and stuff. Well, when we put a due date on our collecting date, we have collection date, due date, a week before the due date. Mind you, it's 250 lotions and 500 Spams. I have 39 Spams, and I have 9 lotions. And I said, oh, God, and I started doubting myself. I said, maybe it's just me who wanting to do it so bad. But the moment I release it, I swear, the moment I release it, I said, okay, I'm just going to do the 9 lotions, 39 Spam. A week later, here comes lotions and Spams to the people I've only met one time a year ago from a conference. And they said, hey, I remember you collecting lotions and Spam. I mean, they probably pay more on shipping to send me the Spam than send us the financial. But the key is, that week, we got more than 500 Spams and more than 250 lotions. So that's my golden moment. I said, okay, I guess we're meant to be, to do this. But my lesson learned for us is releasing it. Yeah. Once you put it out there, and first and foremost, offer it to God and let go. Now, whether I collect those 9 or 2 lotions, it's still offering to God. And that's what Stephen and I do today,
That's so good. Thank you, Joe. Thank you.